Welcome back to the channel, everybody. How are you doing today? This is a review of The Mummy by Anne Rice. Before we get into it, let's talk about the synopsis, and then we're going to really talk about The Mummy. Ramsay, the Great lives. By having drunk the elixir of life, he is now Ramsay the Damned, doomed forever to wander the earth, desperate to quell hungers that can never be satisfied. Reawakened in London, he becomes the close companion Julia Stratford, who is the center of a group of jaded aristocrats with appetites for their own appease. But the pleasures of Ramsay enjoys with Julia cannot soothe him. Searing memories of his last reawakening are the behest of Cleopatra, his beloved queen of Egypt, burn in his immortal soul, and his intense longing for her, undiminished over the centuries, will force him to commit an act that will place everyone around him in the gravest danger. So, The Mummy, or Ramsay the Damned, by Anne Rice. I've never read Anne Rice. I have watched The Interview with a Vampire, and that was about it. Which is why I'm playing right now, because Interview with a Vampire is really good. I just gotta put that out there. If you have seen the movie, you know. If you have not seen the movie, you need to watch it. But anyways, I decided to read The Mummy. For one, I was like, alright, this wasn't even on my fall TBR, but I was like, man, I need something good, because I just felt like my fall TBR was kind of mid. So I picked up Anne Rice's The Mummy. I was gonna read Interview with a Vampire, but I was like, I watched the movie, so maybe eventually I'll read it. The Mummy is actually pretty interesting. So it's very Egyptian-like, obviously, and you start off with a character named Lawrence who finds this mummy of Ramsay the Damned. He actually gets poisoned by his nephew, Henry, because Henry's an alcoholic and he has a lot of gambling issues and he needs money. And Lawrence was like, nah, you're not getting any money, because Lawrence created like a company of a shipping company, and so he's just rich. And Henry is not. And Henry ends up poisoning Lawrence, and Ramsay, mummified, got to see it. So after that was all taken, Ramsay is taken to London, where Julia is the daughter of Lawrence. She is like doing stuff with the mummy and everything. And Henry goes on like this rant of like killing people because of gambling debts, and he's just like an alcoholic. Like I said, she does a really good job at setting the tone of Henry, of how bad Henry is. And Henry like takes advantage of his father, because his father is like feeding into this addiction, but his father's also like, I need to try and stop, but I can't because he's my son. If I stop, he will never ever want to be around me. And it's just so crazy thinking about that kind of stuff, because honestly, I never really truly thought about that until I was reading this, that addiction like that in general just plays such a strong role in a lot of families. That yes, the addict himself deals with it, but everyone else also deals with this conflict, and I just never really thought about it until reading this book. That's what's going on with this, is Henry's just constantly just trying to get money, and he steals like Cleopatra's coins to pawn it off, but the guy at the pawn shop's like, this is probably fake, but he actually knew this was real, but he just thought Henry stole it. And then Henry wants money, so he goes to Julia, and he tries to kill Julia by poisoning her, just like he did with Lawrence. Ramsay sticks his arm out from the coffin and just grabs his shoulder, and because he's still like mummified, but because of the little bit of light that's hitting him, he's actually coming back to life, which is such a cool thing to see. The way that she described it in this book was awesome, and I really enjoyed this book so much. And I think the first half of it was really, really good, and then the second half was kind of losing me. I kind of lost more interest in the second half. And you have like these families that are all together in this book. They all end up going to Egypt. Henry gets killed, which is great. Julia becomes immortal, which is what I kind of figured. And in this story, Julia is actually kind of like an arranged marriage with this character named Alex, and Alex's father, Elliot, was like ex-lovers with Lawrence, and now they're trying to like marry Alex to Julia so they actually have money. It's so crazy of all these people are just trying to like milk money from just this little family. And what happens throughout all this is Ramsay and Julia fall in love, because Ramsay is immortal, and when the sun hits him, he like regenerates essentially, and it is so cool. The way that she described all this was awesome. I was locked in. Like the way that she would just describe that Ramsey's like ripping the cloth off and his skin's just like healing. It was just so good. And Julia falls in love with Ramsey and she starts showing him pieces of London, and then they talk about how intelligent he is. And I really liked how he just was like boom, 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 like a quick learner. He's always just reading and he's eating so much. He's just learning so much stuff, and he's the one that created this elixir to make people immortal. So then they go to Egypt because he wants to see Egypt now compared to what he saw before. And Elliot and Alex and then Henry go. Elliot is going because he knows what Ramsey is. Ramsey knows that Elliot knows what he is. You know, it's one of those things. Elliot is like crippled and he wants the elixir to be immortal, which is, I mean, makes sense to me if you ask me. Throughout this whole book, they're kind of doing things. It's like gradual the whole time. In the second part, it really slows down. And Ramsey, they go to a pyramid and they go to the museum and they see Cleopatra. And so Ramsey that night gets an elixir and reborns Cleopatra, which is like wild because Cleopatra's not all there. Parts of her brain was still gone and she was like killing fools throughout this whole book. Then he gives her the elixir again, another one, and then she like is fully healed. And she actually realizes how much she truly hates Ramsey. And Ramsey brings her back because he's like in love with her, but then he's like not in love with her, if that makes any sense. Because he found out like how much he loves Julia over Cleopatra. And Cleopatra ends up falling in love with Alex. They just gotta go their separate ways because Cleopatra gets smoked by a train. And at the end of this book, Elliot gets to drink the elixir and he becomes immortal, just like Julia becomes immortal. And I'm like, dang, I give this book like a 4 out of 5. Because there's a lot of elements I was liking, but most of it I was just, I don't know, I wasn't like the biggest fan of this book as much as I thought I was. The first part I was really into. I was like, oh, are they gonna try and kill Ramsey? Is Ramsey gonna do something to, I don't know, I was expecting something to happen with Ramsey, but it never really did. And it just became more of a dark romance more than like a horror, which is fine. But I just didn't really enjoy this book as much. The second half, I felt like it was dragged out too long in some elements. But I will say the prose of this book is Anne Rice knows how to freaking write. I can tell you that right now. And the way that she wrote is just like these characters have so much layers. Each one of them are their own person and so good. I love it. I love the way that she writes a lot of these characters where they do have layers and they actually feel real. In a book that's not even 400 pages, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's 398 pages, which is awesome. But like this book, not even 400 pages, she really can make it so you can feel for these characters, which is important. I think the plot itself is it's a book about mummies, which is so badass. 2, when she can make layers, even for Ramsey, you actually can relate to Ramsey and like him as a character. It's fun to read and it's really enjoyable. So when I got into reading this, I was hyped. I'm very, very excited that I got to read this book, and it's not taking me away to read anything else from Anne Rice. I think what I might do in the new year, I might do a couple videos. I want to do more videos of when I read authors and a lot of their works. I actually want to do videos about that author in general and just talk about what books I liked from them and so on and so forth. Because I think that'd be so much fun to do. And Anne Rice, she's definitely one of them that I would like to do. So The Mummy, I'd probably go to 4 out of 5. And I don't have any other complaints about that. I think this was a really fun book. I think if you want to read Anne Rice and you never read like The Interview with Vampire, I think this is a good starting point, I think personally. I don't really have much complaints other than, you know, I just felt like the second half was kind of weak, but who knows, other people might change their mind about it. But for me, 4 out of 5. If you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. What do you guys think about The Mummy? Did you guys like it, or did you guys never even knew Anne Rice wrote a book called The Mummy? And are you guys a fan of Anne Rice? If there is anything that Anne Rice has wrote that you guys think I should check out, let me down below. She has a book called Witch's Hour, I think. It's like a witch book, which is sick. And that's on my TBR to read, possibly in the new year. We'll see. But I also want to read The Interview with a Vampire. I don't know if I'm going to read the rest of the series because there's like 10 of them. But I don't know if I'm going to do that. But I know I'm definitely going to read Interview with a Vampire in the new year as well. And, of course, make sure you guys stay safe, stay humble, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay weird.